Ace Frehley wasn't born a rock legend. He was born Paul Daniel Frehley in the Bronx, New York, into a family where music was just part of life. Long before the stage lights and Spaceman makeup, he was a self-taught guitarist, figuring out chords and melodies by ear. He once said his sense of melody came from singing in the church choir, not lessons. That natural talent, that instinctive feel for music, was something you either had or you didn't, and Ace had it in spades. From the very start, there was a spark in him that couldn't be taught, a raw energy that would later define one of the most iconic rock personas of all time. Even as a teenager, Ace's guitar wasn't just an instrument, it was an extension of his personality. His riffs were bold, brash, and fearless, hinting at the larger-than-life presence he would one day command on stadium stages. Little did anyone know, this Bronx kid was destined to help create a band that would redefine rock and roll, shock the world with costumes and theatrics, and leave a mark that would echo for generations. But before the fame, before the rockets and smoke, it all started with a boy, a guitar, and a vision. And yet, even with that natural talent, Ace's journey wasn't a straight line. There were struggles, doubts, and the relentless grind of the music world, a world that would test him in ways few could imagine. But every challenge only sharpened his edge, setting the stage for the electrifying rise of Kiss, a band that would change everything. By 1973, Ace Frehley had joined forces with Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, and Peter Criss to form a band that would change rock forever. Kiss. From the very first show, it wasn't just the music that grabbed attention. It was the spectacle. Black and white makeup, outrageous costumes, and personalities that felt larger than life made every performance unforgettable. Ace became the Spaceman, a persona as mysterious as it was electrifying, and fans couldn't get enough. Kiss wasn't just a band, it was a phenomenon. Hits like Rock and Roll All Night, Black Diamond, and I Was Made for Lovin' You blasted from radios and stadiums, creating a fervor that spread worldwide. Ace's guitar solos were fiery, daring, and impossible to ignore. He had a style that was instantly recognizable, with riffs that could make a crowd roar or hold its breath in awe. And behind the scenes, his humor and wit made him the band's court jester, keeping the energy sharp and unpredictable. But fame came with its own challenges, the intensity of touring, the pressures of creativity, and the constant media attention pushed the band and Ace into uncharted territory. It wasn't just about the music anymore, it was about survival, maintaining identity, and holding on to the spark that made him special. Yet even in the chaos, Ace's presence was magnetic. Every time he stepped on stage, it was clear. This spaceman wasn't just playing guitar, he was commanding the universe. And just when it seemed like Kiss had taken over the world, Ace made a decision that would change the next chapter of his life, setting the stage for one of the boldest moves in rock history. In 1982, Ace Frehley made a move that shocked fans. He left Kiss. While the band continued its meteoric rise, Ace struck out on his own, determined to carve a path that was purely his. This was the birth of Frehley's Comet, a project that allowed him to push boundaries, experiment with sound, and show the world a side of him that couldn't always fit inside the spaceman costume. His solo work quickly proved he wasn't just a band member, he was a force of nature. Songs like New York Groove became instant classics, capturing both the grit of the city he loved and the electrifying energy of his guitar. And then there was Rock Soldiers, a track that reminded everyone that Ace was fearless, unapologetic, and unafraid to own his spotlight. Fans noticed, critics noticed, and fellow musicians took note of the innovation and charisma that defined every note he played. But going solo wasn't just about success. It was a test of independence. Ace had to navigate the music industry on his own, dealing with pressures he hadn't faced in Kiss. Yet his natural talent, stage presence, and relentless drive kept him moving forward. Each performance, each album, each riff solidified his reputation as one of metal's greatest guitarists. Even though he had left the band that made him famous, Ace never lost his connection to Kiss or to the fans who adored him. Rumors of reunions and collaborations began to swirl, teasing the possibility that the Spaceman might return to the galaxy he helped create. And as fate would have it, the next chapter of Ace's story would bring him back to the stage in a way that no one could have predicted. In 1996, the impossible happened. Ace Frehley returned to Kiss for a reunion tour that fans had dreamed about for years. The Spaceman was back, and with him came a wave of nostalgia, energy, and sheer spectacle. Stadiums filled with screaming fans, pyrotechnics lit up the night sky, and Ace's signature guitar solos soared higher than ever, proving that time hadn't dulled his fire. This wasn't just a comeback, it was a statement. Ace reminded the world that his place in rock history was irreplaceable. Even after leaving again in 2002, his impact never faded. His contributions to Kiss's legacy, from explosive performances to unforgettable songs, cemented his reputation as one of the greatest metal guitarists of all time. Hits like Shock Me and Rocket Ride weren't just songs, they were anthems that defined a generation. Beyond the stage, Ace continued to create music on his own terms. His 2024 solo album, 10,000 Volts, topped Billboard's hard rock charts, proving that even decades into his career, he could still electrify audiences and command attention. But it wasn't just about charts or fame. Ace's love for music, his dedication to his craft, and his connection with fans kept him moving forward, even as age and health challenges crept in. By 2025, his touring schedule had to be altered due to medical issues. Fans were concerned, social media buzzed with updates, but Ace remained resilient, demonstrating the same determination that had defined his entire career. His story was far from over, and every fan knew that while the Spaceman might face challenges, his spirit, like his solos, would never truly fade. And just when you thought you knew every chapter of Ace's life, there was more to the story. Moments off stage that revealed a side of him as brilliant, mischievous, and unforgettable as his guitar work. Ace Frehley wasn't just a guitarist. He was the Spaceman, the court jester of rock, and a master of turning every stage into a playground. Fans loved him not only for his electrifying solos, but for his razor-sharp wit and that unmistakable laugh that could cut through even the loudest stadium. Where Gene Simmons scowled, Ace cackled. Where chaos threatened, Ace thrived. One of his most legendary moments came during a 1979 appearance on The Tomorrow Show with Tom Snyder. In full Spaceman costume, Ace unleashed his comedic genius, calling himself the Trout Player instead of the lead guitarist and joking about his utility belt and absurd antics. His improvisation left the interview in shambles, the bandmates laughing, and the audience captivated. Ace wasn't just performing music, he was performing personality, blending humor, charm, and irreverence in a way no one else could. And then there were the stage shows, guitar solos that literally shot sparks and smoke, sometimes even rockets. Ace pushed the limits, turning performances into spectacles. One infamous trick, showing a smoking guitar on live TV, ended with him joking about getting bronchitis from the smoke. Every mistake, every stunt, every laugh only made him more magnetic. His humor wasn't just for the crowd, it was his armor, his way of navigating the pressures of fame, and his way of connecting with fans. Ace made people feel like they were part of the chaos, part of the fun, and part of a world where music and laughter were inseparable. The Spaceman wasn't just on stage, he was a force of nature, larger than life, and unforgettable. Even decades later, fans and musicians alike remembered Ace for this mix of talent and mischief. And while his music defined an era, his personality made it legendary, a reminder that rock and roll is as much about attitude as it is about notes. When Ace Frehley passed away at 74, the world of rock and roll felt an emptiness that couldn't be filled. His family shared that he left peacefully, surrounded by love and caring words, a reflection of the kindness that had marked his life off stage. Fans around the globe mourned the loss of the Spaceman, the guitarist whose riffs had inspired generations and whose humor had brightened countless moments. Tributes poured in from his Kiss bandmates. Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley described him as an essential and irreplaceable rock soldier whose presence shaped some of the band's most defining chapters. Peter Criss shared old photos, expressing shock and love for his longtime friend. Fellow musicians, from Megadeth's David Ellefson to Pearl Jam's Mike McCready, celebrated Ace's influence, crediting his groundbreaking guitar work with shaping their own journeys. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame remembered him as one of the most recognizable and influential guitarists of all time, highlighting his iconic licks, pyrotechnic stage performances, and the unforgettable Spaceman persona. Hits like Cold Gin, Parasite, and his solo work like New York Groove continue to echo through music history, proof that his talent was timeless. Even in everyday moments, Ace left a mark. Radio hosts, managers, and friends recalled his generosity, humor, and mentorship, traits that went far beyond the spotlight. His influence extended from fans in packed arenas to young musicians picking up a guitar for the first time, all inspired by the energy, creativity, and personality he poured into every note. Flowers will be placed at his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a symbolic reminder of a career that transcended music and touched culture itself. Ace Frehley's legacy isn't just in the songs he played. It's in the laughter he inspired, the rules he bent, and the universe of rock and roll he helped shape forever. Ace Frehley's story is more than the tale of a legendary guitarist. It's the story of a trailblazer who redefined what it meant to be a rock star. From a self-taught kid in the Bronx to the Spaceman of Kiss, his life was marked by daring creativity, humor, and a relentless drive to entertain. He didn't just play guitar. He crafted experiences, blending music, spectacle, and personality in ways that few could ever match. Even in his later years, Ace's influence remained unstoppable. His solos continued to inspire, his albums continued to captivate, and his persona continued to remind fans that rock and roll isn't just about the notes. It's about attitude, individuality, and the joy of performing without limits. Tributes from family, bandmates, and fellow musicians prove that his impact goes far beyond the stage, touching hearts and shaping lives. As fans remember the Spaceman, it's clear that Ace Frehley's legacy will live on, not just in records and concert halls, but in the spirit of every musician and fan he inspired. His laughter, his riffs, and his larger-than-life personality ensured that the world of rock and roll will never be the same, and that the universe he created with his music will continue to shine for generations to come.